Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans, a live streaming podcast where your favorite hosts bring some of the most interesting topics of the week to you and to our panel to discuss and ultimately determine if it's truth, lies, or shenanigans. And of course, we always try to have some fun with some shenanigans of our own along the way. My name is Neil Nix, and today your hosts are bringing some really interesting topics. Rob B wants to talk more about the massacres of indigenous children found in Canadian schools. I want to discuss the workers in a Texas hospital quitting or getting fired because of their refusal to get vaccines. Johnny Storm is talking about the U.S. finally acknowledging UFOs. And our favorite guest host, Jose, joins the show to talk about demons in the aisles of Home Depot. And as always, we'll start with a quick fire question today on Derek Chauvin, and we'll end with some fun and shenanigans of the game show. But before we get into it, I need to introduce you to our lovely hosts, our gamer, tech guru, and bona fide rock star with the rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario in Canada, Mr. Rob B. Rock.
Yeah. Man, I like it when Liz takes a day off. I get
to go first.
I get to go first. I feel so special today. No, things are good here. Things are good here. Joe and I started our holidays this week, so as of Friday afternoon, we just kind of checked out a little bit, and we're kicking it into low gear, just kind of enjoying things for the next week.
Nice. All right, and streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, our favorite model, actress, and co-host of TLS Unscripted, Miss Gianni Storm.
Hey guys, happy Sunday fun day. Rob, you're in low gear and I'm in high gear because my birthday's coming up in 2 weeks and I'm very excited.
All right.
I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know that my friends are visiting me, so I'm excited. It's gonna be some shenanigans of our own happening.
Nice. Love it. All right. And sitting in for the Professor Liz E., the lady who always brings our team a joyful and positive vibe. And if you follow us on Twitter or read the newsletter, then you felt that joy and positivity because that's all from Miss Jose.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me again. It's like Robbie Rock said, we are on holidays and it's been a bit of a slow gear, but lots of yard work coming up. We have a lot of stuff to do outside. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, if the weather can just cooperate because it's been raining, like major raining.
Has it?
So I need my sunshine and my humidex. Bring it on.
I need some rain.
Yeah.
We need some rain where I am. We need some rain.
I'll trade you.
I love the rain. All right, so Gianni, you had another great unscripted episode this past Wednesday. Tell everyone real quick what you and the ladies talked about.
This past Wednesday, we talked about the 10 friend commandments. So kind of like we brought you guys back to school or back to class, and we just ran down the 10 commandments you need to know to be a really good best friend. So check out Unscripted and check it on IGTV.
Best friend commandments. That's the category.
Yes.
The best friend commandments.
Yeah, Olivia
That's
repeated that several times. The best friend, the good, the really your dog, your
friend.
road dog friend. She was
Ride or die.
Ride or
exactly.
die. Yeah. Yeah, like Gianni said, you can catch that episode on TLSShow.com or listen to the TLS Pod again every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, now it's time to get into the show. Quick fire question. All right, so this week, Derek Chauvin, George Floyd's killer, got his sentence of 22 and a half years in prison. And conspiracy theorists of QAnon theorized that it was not Derek Chauvin in court, asking who the fuck is that? And it's not the same guy from the trial, and this Chauvin looks nothing like the original. And how many Chauvins are there? So what do you say to these quacky QAnons out there? Start with Gianni Storm.
They'll say anything to keep the conspiracy going.
Robbie Rock.
Stress and incarceration changes a man. He looks worn and haggard, as he should.
It's true.
That's true. That's true. Jose?
Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. Okay, so QAnon to sand.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I think they might have got this one right because the dude looks completely different every time we see him. But there's one thing that never changes: those beady little evil eyes of his. So it's definitely him. It's definitely him. All right. So
I heard prison changes people.
in many ways.
I mean, like Robbie Rock says, he's looking, more and more haggard every time we see him. So yeah, no, the guy's not looking like $1 million.
No, not even close. Might not even be worth like $2 at this point. Jacqueline Robinson's online. She said, "I've had my fill of the Q-tips."
All
right,
face palm from Moose. Yeah.
All right. So, and for those that don't know who QAnon is, it's a conspiracy theorist group that thinks Trump is the second coming, and that Democrats like Hillary Clinton are the cabal of Satanists doing child sacrifices in pizza stores. So, all right. So, real quick, let me play this first TikTok of George of the Floyd sentence when Chauvin was actually sentenced. So.
Now look at this.
Mr. Chauvin, as to count 1, based on the verdict of the jury, finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses. As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender. Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC. We are adjourned.
We are adjourned. Wow.
So let me ask you guys and our audience about the 22 and a half years for Chauvin. So is this justice, considering it is one of the longest sentences for a police-involved death? I'm going to start with, let's start with Robbie Rock on this one.
Okay. From what I read, he got the maximum sentence possible in the state of Wisconsin for the charges that were levied against him. So legally, they got that right.
So Minnesota. It's Minnesota.
Or sorry, Minnesota. Yeah.
Yep.
But
I don't think it was the maximum though. Is that correct? Because I thought it was. I thought the maximum he could get was like 40 years or something. And
yeah, it was a snippet that I'd read just for the charges that were against him.
Okay.
But whether or not this is justice is for George Floyd's family to determine, because they are the true victims of this crime. We're all invested in it because this has created a ripple effect across our collective psyche, as it should have, and hopefully will be a precursor for a lot of change. But yeah, I really feel that this is more a personal thing for his friends, family, and loved ones.
What do you think, Jose, Johnny?
I agree with what Robbie Rock is saying. If that's the maximum sentence that he could get, great. But my reaction is it ever enough? Right? It won't bring him back. Is it justice? Well, it's a step in the right direction. There's been a conviction and it wasn't thrown out of court. So I'm very happy to see that justice has been served in that sense. And hopefully it'll make other cops think twice of ever, following those footsteps. But I don't think it's not enough. Money, time, it's not enough. It'll never bring him back. And it was a senseless step.
So what do you think he should have gotten?
Honestly, to me, a life for a life. A life for a life.
Oh, so we're talking death penalty here.
Death penalty, let him rot in jail, just in a corner, let him do his time. We've seen just in the past few months how he's changed. I mean, apparently that's not him, that received the
According to QAnon.
sentence, but you can tell, yes, there is a change in the man. Every prison will do that, right? He looks dejected. Well, you know what? There's no end in sight. Leave him to rot.
Okay, Gianni?
I believe he got what he deserved, but I feel like if the judge had sentenced him longer, I wouldn't be upset with that. I don't think anybody, well, some people would be, but I feel like Jose, a life for a life. I agree with that.
Oh, so
And
you think a
there,
life
and
sentence?
yeah, but I do still feel like he got what he deserved. Like, I'm not mad with the 22 and a half years because if we think about that, when he gets out, his life is ruined anyway, for the most part. He's not gonna
He's going to
be a
be
guest
probably in his
show.
60s, I believe.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be wanting to interview him and give him opportunities and all of these things. So,
But there is word that, they're saying that with good behavior, he'd be out in 15. So it's quite possible he could be out sooner than that. So he'll be in his 50s when he gets out, if he gets out. And then you've got appeals going on. But there are federal charges still pending against him as well.
But let's be honest. I mean, he's not
like,
going to have an easy time of it in prison.
Oh, no, no.
but-
As a police
So-
officer in prison, that's one of the, he's not going to have it easy at all. You're
but what
absolutely
if
right.
they
No.
put him in, like, what if they safe haven him, or what is it called, like infirmaries, or
Oh, when they
like
put him
Solitary
in
confinement,
solitary.
Yeah.
yeah,
Then that's its own cruel and unusual
That is
punishment.
kind of cruel too.
Because you want to talk
That's
about
true,
psychological deterioration? Put somebody in solitary. That's how they
Yeah.
break people.
Yeah, solitary. Solitary is tough, but I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't have been mad at more. I mean, if let's say it had been turned the other way and it was George Floyd who had killed the cop, there would be a different sentence.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
and it would be beyond life. It'd probably be, we're talking death penalty and things like that. So and then you have to add on the fact that it was a position of trust, where someone was placed in this position. It makes it even worse. I don't think it makes it better that he was, we should have a lesser thing because he was a police officer. It should be worse because you're a police
Yeah.
officer.
Yes, absolutely. You are there to protect. We're supposed to trust you, and our lives are in your hands to make sure that everything is law and order. Well, look at law and order, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't feel he should deserve pity. I don't feel like people should pity him.
I totally agree. According to Jacqueline Robinson, according to them, Biden had a face transplant and it's really IQ 45 in the White House right now.
Well, he's
talking about QAnon.
But he's having a wicked second term. Like, he's really turned it around.
He's actually doing good things. Olivia says the cruelty is serious. I thought it was like 50 years. The judges, this is Jacqueline Robinson again, the judges plus page opinion was well written. I'm suspect that he wants to ensure it is appeal proof. So he's trying to make sure it's appeal proof. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's why he wanted to make sure it was a reasonable sentence, and that totally makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I do. There was one thing at the end of when Chauvin decided to speak. It was the first time we'd heard him speak. But let me play that real quick. I have a question for you guys on this.
Now look at this.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, due to some additional legal matters at hand, I'm not able to give a full formal statement at this time. But very briefly, though, I do want to give my condolences to the Floyd family. There's going to be some other information in the future that would be of interest, and I hope things will give you some peace of mind. Thank you.
And I'll note that I did read your comments in the pre-sentence investigation as well.
Thanks, John.
So does anybody have any sense of what he's talking about?
I think he
No
might
idea
say. I think he's gonna come out and say that one, he might have been set up and somebody was telling him to do that, or I think he might say that him and George Floyd had some type of relationship or something. Like, why would the family be of interest? That's like they would be of interest of what he has to say. So it has to do with maybe a
But
relationship with Floyd. I don't know.
I
I
was
don't know.
thinking
He's
that.
saying
I was
new
thinking relationship with
information that's
Floyd.
going to bring them some peace of mind.
Right. That
I,
was
I,
confusing me.
to me, that's very confusing because what could possibly bring you any peace of mind after
Unless it wasn't
watching
him.
the video, after the deliberations in court? I'm very, very curious what he's hinting to
Yeah.
because I have no idea.
Yeah. I was confused. I mean, if I'm being honest.
Is it because, I mean, what happens to those other cops, right? Are they being charged? Is there new evidence pending that we just don't know about that is buried in whatever? And no one can, talk about it essentially because there's still charges pending. So it'll be interesting what comes out. I mean, what else can be said at this time? Who knows?
Such a weird.
I mean,
that's
That is a
weird.
very bizarre comment to make.
a lot of
Yeah.
people. Okay, so this was a TikTok that we had up, and so a lot of people on the TikTok were saying things like he's saying that he's going to off himself. That's what he was trying to allude at. Taking himself out as
TikTok.
somebody said very cryptic, possibly. Yeah, he said somebody said what could possibly give him closure. And he said, somebody named Dennis Land says, I believe the information he has will cause a mistrial and get a new trial that may take 3 to 5 years, but there's something he's holding on to. Some people saying they think it was a setup. Maybe it was a setup.
I think that.
Maybe somehow there was some setup for Floyd, and it, I don't know how that brings you peace, though.
I guess as we're talking, the only thing that I can think of, if he was exposing some systemic racism at a higher level in the chain of command with the police services, that dismantling something like that might bring some peace of mind. But that's as we're talking, that's the only thing that's kind of jumped into my mind that would make any sense.
Yes, Cindy says my prediction: the information is going to come out that he's got is going to come out and blame the police force for somehow.
Going to be more people involved.
Yeah.
Go ahead and blame whoever you want. At the end of the day, those were his actions. He made that choice to follow, to do those actions, to act upon what he did. He's the one that killed. He's the one that has the blood on his hands. So it doesn't matter who way up high, is telling him, is coaching him, is challenging him. At the end of the day, we all have choices to make. I choose on a daily basis not to be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. So
you know what I mean? I choose to be a kind person.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're telling me that you can bring this up higher and higher and higher so that you can expose this? You had to kill someone for it?
Mm-hmm. A day on Facebook says the only true peace of mind that can be had is bringing George Floyd back. Other than that, what kind of peace of mind or info can he possibly give? Shaking my head.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from this. Let's get into our full show and our hot topics.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, if you've never been to TLS before, let me tell you a bit about how this part works. Very similar to our quick fire because we took a little long in our quick fire today. But each week, our hosts bring us topics in the news they want to discuss. The host will tell everybody what's going on, then our lovely panel will chat about it, sharing their unique points of view on the issue until we see our friend Genji. And then that's when we know time is up and it's time to hear from you. We'll take your online questions and comments. Then at the very end, we'll check with the panel to see if they think this was truth, lies, or shenanigans. Now, for our podcast listeners on Apple Podcasts, don't forget you can join in the live conversation every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We stream on all major platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Find us at TLSLiveShow or TLSShow.com. Let's get to it.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
We're going to start out with Rob B today. You wanted to follow up your conversation about the recently found massacre of Indigenous children at Canadian schools. What's going on, Rob B?
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, there was a discovery in Kamloops, BC, of 251 unmarked children's graves at a residential school. For those of you who don't know, residential schools were basically a system of schools that were government sanctioned, run by religious institutions to help. It was basically an assimilation program to take the Indigenous population and give them more Eurocentric values and to essentially get rid of their traditional values. And during the conversation,
I tend to imagine like those, I don't know, have you watched Annie?
Yeah.
Like the orphanages and things like that, and just the cruelty there. And
me too. I thought of that too.
I mean, that's just the image I get in my head. I'm sorry, Rob B, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's right. But now imagine that you don't speak the language, that you don't know the culture, that you don't understand the values that these people have, their deities, their beliefs. It's so a real upheaval in these children's lives. And part of the conversation was that we need to update our historical memorials and monuments. And I came across a wonderful article that the National Cemetery in Canada is just doing that. It's the Ottawa's Beechwood National Cemetery, which is in Vanier, just outside of Ottawa. And they actually, since 2015, have been updating the plaques. And one of the more, that's it, just to give them a little bit more credence, a little bit more value. There was one for Duncan Campbell Scott, who's a great Canadian poet, but he was also a key architect of the residential school system. So now he does have that footnote on his plaque, and it's happening. So the quote from the cemetery's director is that we believe in reconciliation and we believe in the dialogue that we can have. It's not about rewriting history. It's not about changing the history. It's about providing the element that has been missing. So Canada's taking some right steps in that respect. But no sooner did I find that and kind of started getting a little feel good about Canada, we got some more horrible news out of Saskatoon. The Cowess's First Nation announced that there was a preliminary finding of 751 additional unmarked graves, and this was at a cemetery near the former Merivale Indian Residential School.
So they were just killing children and throwing them into graves.
These were children that were reported as missing. This kid went into the woods, but yeah, 751 unmarked graves in another residential school cemetery. And this is it's flabbergasting because in 2 sites, we have a death toll of 1,000 children, and there were about 140 of these schools that ran throughout the entire program's existence. And now this has really sparked a lot of furor and some division with Canadians as the conversation is moving forward. And my question to the panel is, in light of this latest discovery of 751 additional bodies, should Canada Day 2021 be relegated to a day of observance rather than a day of celebration?
So you're saying change Canada Day altogether to be sort of...
I'm saying Canada Day 2021. I'm not saying
just this year.
Change it completely. So this year, in light of all these recent findings, and there will be more, I'm just... This year, and as far as reading the room is concerned, should we be celebrating or should we really be observing?
Let's go with Gianni on this one to start.
For sure, you guys should be observing, and maybe even every year, honestly. Because honestly, that's really sad, guys. That's really, really tragic. And I didn't know that, well, you guys didn't know either, that Canada had that history of Indigenous people and children being treated that way. I know that every continent, every country has some form of that, but when we learn of like innocence being taken and just like blood on their hands, now it's like, okay, let's start to do something about this. I think remembrance is just like a little sprinkle to, especially for 2021, just this year. I don't think that's enough. But For sure, you guys should remember them for Canada Day. It should be a day of observance. And I think that I had a question actually. When you guys said that they were being killed, like children and indigenous people were being killed, how were they being killed at these residential schools? How is that
So
Go ahead,
I
Jose.
read one book, and this is just one book, for a project. And these children, like Robbie Brock said, were taken from their families, willingly, unwillingly. They didn't speak French or English. So these kids were starved. There was never enough food. These kids were abused. If these kids did not follow what the teachers, priests, nuns demanded of them, they were beaten. Straps, rulers, kicked, pushed downstairs, uh, electric chairs.
Oh my God.
That's just some of it. So it's not like
They were
these
abused.
kids, it's yeah, we were just killing those kids, and basically whoops, they fell down the stairs. Some of these kids would try to run away. Now these residential schools were so far away from their original homes, right, where they come from. So what would happen as well is that they would try to get back home in the middle of winter. They would freeze. There's no buses. They had to walk
Goodness.
through these forests. So essentially, that's what it is. It was these kids
Wow.
died at the hand of priests, nuns, educators, if they did not conform.
What was the
Pure and
religious? I have two questions actually. What was the religious group? Was it Catholics or
It's
Catholic.
Christian, mostly Catholic. There were some Anglican churches, some United churches, but it does come from a Judeo-Christian ideology.
Okay. And what would do you know the years that this was happening? The time frame?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, but roughly the 1830s until 1996,
1997.
1996,
That recent.
1997.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to know.
last one closed in the late 90s.
Wow. So do we know if there were those deaths were still occurring then, or are these like? Do we have any sense of
This is
like
all
how long
This is
this
all
was
new
happening?
history for us. This is all new information. I know that the stories have been there from the elders. There have been a lot of eyewitness accounts and testimonials, and there have been some pieces of evidence, but now this is mass evidence. These are mass graves. So this isn't stuff that can just be swept under the rug, ignored, and just kept away from the Canadian people anymore. This is forcing
Yeah.
us to take a really difficult look at our nation, its development, the history, and what we've been taught to believe.
I always put myself like when with these situations, I always try to envision myself in those experiences, and I just can't even imagine being a child forced into that situation. You don't understand what's going
I
on.
can't.
People, they're using like physical abuse to get you to understand, and it's just not
Mhm.
making any sense. And you, even if you try to do the right things, it's still never the right thing. I just can't even imagine being a child caught up in that. Um, and then to see your friends killed or people just disappearing. I don't know what even the children must have been seeing in those situations, and I mean, it's so sad.
Evil. I know. I couldn't even.
Yes.
I can't even fathom. Like I can't. I really can't.
I mean, there's been a
Um.
lot of evils done throughout history. I mean, the U.S. it's not like we're immune. I mean, you just mentioned we had some simpler residential schools, um, but I mean, just I don't even know what brings a human being to choose to treat another human being like that.
Ignorance,
Yeah.
fear,
Um,
power, control. If you weren't Catholic, if you didn't speak French or
Hate.
English, you didn't fit in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Shame
just
on us.
it just pisses me off every time I hear about anything that happens to kids, particularly. It
Yeah.
just pains
Because
me.
they can't do much about it. Like animals, you can't. What can they do? They just take it.
So,
Yeah,
so
but
your question is, so back to your question. I didn't answer your question. I'm sorry, I got caught up. I apologize. But to
no,
answer your
We got
question,
sad.
as recognition, I mean, Canada Day, I don't know the significance of Canada Day for one. So I don't, um, I don't
Canada Day
know.
basically recognizes that when we became a confederation.
Okay, so sort of like our federal, July 4th, Independence Day, et cetera, celebration.
Very similar.
And you're saying, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. Well, I think there should be some advocacy for remembrance of the victims. There should be there should be some consideration for a day specifically for that. And I'm not against using Canada Day to commemorate this. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I think there should be more. There should be more. There's not enough at
Oh
this
yeah.
point. I
Oh,
mean,
Oh,
unfortunately, I guess
absolutely.
this is new information, and so we've got to get somewhere with it. But go ahead, Jose.
It is and it isn't. I kind of got in a discussion with a friend of mine that works closely with the indigenous people, and this friend of mine is really put off because it's like this has been out for many, many years. Now, why haven't we heard of it? Why have we not paid attention until now? Right?
yeah.
Is it because it's social media and it's everywhere and it's more in the open now? Because I'm ashamed to say it, and I will share something with you. As I was in grade school, um, my history classes made me fear indigenous people. I'm going to be
Mm,
absolutely honest with you. They were known as savages. They
mhm.
were known as uneducated people, people that drank all the time, that did drugs, that had no money, and especially like specific bands, how they were known as scalpers.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you teach that to grade school kids, what do you think they will take
As
away?
adults.
And now this is being taught to us from our families, from our parents that have been taught the same thing, from our grandparents. You know what I mean? So of course we're growing up with this bias. And it's something that I've been sharing, is that I'm really angry with the education that I got, because I was taught to fear the indigenous people. And you know what? The more I read, they are beautiful people. They're what they bring, their thoughts, their behaviors. It's just, they are so in love with the land. They're people of the land, and they are just really amazing people. And what I have been myself led to believe is very, very deceiving, and I am ashamed.
It's not very different than what's happened here, with like critical race theory and things like that. It's just, because the
Yep.
history that's
Mhm.
taught is not reality. It's just to denigrate and to create a sense of superiority, and it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame that it's
Mhm.
happening because Canada is considered one of the more progressive countries in the world. So far more progressive than the U.S. even, and to even hear that that's what's being
Yeah.
taught,
Happened.
in your grade school in your lifetime
Yeah.
is disappointing. So Jacqueline Robinson says, I am loath to tell another sovereign country what they should do, but please keep doing what you're doing. We have our own backyard to clean up. Pretty much what I was just
Mhm.
saying. I mean,
Yeah.
we have there's a lot.
Big mess.
I
Big mess.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and and what we've done with um, natives in this country, indigenous people in this country. I mean, that can't be swept under the rug. I mean, and we have some very horribly well documented um,
Yeah.
things that the U.S. did to indigenous people.
Native
So,
Americans.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sad to hear all this going on. Any
Thank you,
final
Absolutely.
thoughts,
And
Robbie?
just Yeah, just to circle back to some of the conversation we were having earlier, what brings people to do something like this? One of my favorite quotes from the author Steven Weinberg is that with or without religion, people can behave well and bad people can do evil. But for good people to do evil, that takes religion. When you have that moral authority, when you have that rightness behind you, you can push any agenda. And unfortunately, a lot of people will buy into it because you've got those masses. It's
We've seen it.
so
Yeah. True.
So it's really time. I'm glad that I'm not glad that we're finding these things, but I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm glad that Indigenous issues that have been long overlooked in Canada will definitely get some traction out of this, because there is a lot of furor and backlash from the Canadian people. Neo, the last image that you showed was a church in Saskatoon that was vandalized with the red paint and the hands, "We were children." I know that of at least 3 church burnings in Canada on Indigenous lands in the last few weeks. So it's Canada's hurt. Canada's angry, and quite rightfully so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia points out we have they did an episode. Olivia and Gianni Storm did an episode. Excuse me, an episode on the failure of the education system. She suggests that Jose, you and her cover that. Excuse me. When you join Unscripted in a couple of weeks. So. All right.
Thank you all for your discussion, and I really appreciate
for listening.
So, truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Lies.
Lots of lies in
Truth
there.
it. There's
Lots
lies
of
in it,
lies.
and there's shenanigans, but lies.
Yeah. Lies.
Lies.
A lot of lies. All right, let's see if I can make it through here without coughing. I got something in my throat all of a sudden.
Anya, you need tea.
Something's up going on. All right, but yes, thank you, Robbie. All right, let's move on.
Lies, shenanigans.
All right, so next up is myself. I wanted to discuss these anti-vaxxers in a Texas hospital quitting or getting fired because of their refusal to get vaccines. So last week, there were a ton of people at the Houston Methodist Hospital that were fired or resigned for choosing to ignore their policy requiring them to be vaccinated against COVID-19. So the hospital gave employees until June 7th to get vaccinated or be suspended for 2 weeks. 200 employees got suspended, and out of that, 153 of them were terminated on Tuesday or had to resign. Now, I was surprised by this number, but nearly half of all frontline workers were still unvaccinated as of March. And I'm sure that number's gone up since then, since it's June now. But a lot of them are still refusing to be vaccinated. And I thought this was standard operating procedure for most hospitals, to be honest. I do want to point out the issue of vaccine mandates for employers made it to the Supreme Court, and they ruled that employers can require the vaccine as a term of employment, quote, subject to the obligation to provide reasonable accommodations to employees with legitimate medical or religious reasons for not being vaccinated. So there is an out. But is this right, guys? Is this right? Should healthcare employers require vaccines? And what about other just regular employers? Should they also be required? I'm going to start with Jose.
I'm all for freedom of choice. I'm okay with that. However, when you're in a career that you are in healthcare, it's not like we just turn around and say, we've got the vaccine within 24 hours. And what people have to understand is that the coronavirus has been around for a very, very long time, right? And people have been studying it. Shit, they just came out with an article saying it was around 20,000 years ago. So, it's been around. We've been studying it. It's not like we have 5 researchers in the whole world from like 19 fish and chips where we're like 100 years to come out with a vaccine. We have so many people, such amazing technology.
Yep.
And what are the deaths associated with the vaccines compared to the disease, the virus itself?
Yeah,
right?
I tried to look it up. I don't think there's any for Moderna or Pfizer, any deaths for Moderna or Pfizer. I think there were some issues with the Johnson & Johnson, but I don't think there are any deaths. for
I mean,
Pfizer.
any drug that we take, there's going to be a side
Double
effect.
check
I
that.
don't know what the side effects are going to be in 20 years from now from getting this vaccine. But what I know for now is that I want to be safe, and I want to be safe for the people that I'm around. So for these people that decided to move on, I hope it's a totally different career that you're going to, a totally new path, because I do believe that if you're in healthcare, you should be encouraging people to get your vaccines to get better, because you're not protected. Even with a vaccine, you can still get coronavirus. However, if you get it, your chances of fighting it are better. So if that worker comes in and gets it, what? Who's liable then?
Yep.
Right? And if they pass it on to someone that's susceptible, that has a weak immune system, I mean, it's a give and take, right? So if you don't want to take it, fine. Go work somewhere else. Find something else.
So I was incorrect. So I want to correct myself. So the 900, this is as of March 6th, so it's a while ago. Old numbers, but 966 people had died after receiving the Pfizer or Moderna COVID vaccines. Report also said that it's 472 from Moderna, 489 from Pfizer, but many of those died because of other issues unrelated to the actual vaccine itself. It was maybe they had some other issue. They were sick from something else or some other underlying issue, but the majority were not because of the vaccine itself. But again, they said they're still reviewing that. But that's 966. And then if we look at how many people died from COVID-19, so because you mentioned comparing the two, we're talking what, millions, hundreds of millions at this point, right? Almost a billion? Or was it like half a billion? What are we looking at?
It's not going to agree with everyone. Just like the flu shot, it doesn't agree with me, but it might agree with Robbie Rock. It's one of those things that it's going to happen, unfortunately. And for the pandemic right now, if we can protect ourselves, this is our best course of defense, because nothing else has kept the virus away.
Yeah.
So
and it's one of the most effective vaccines that they've developed in like almost ever, because at a 96% effectiveness rate, that's like that's like unheard of for vaccines. Usually you're looking at like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is around 80% or something like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this country you can't, and well, apparently everywhere, I feel like you can't have your cake and eat it too, though, in this situation. Because, like, now they have to be out of a job. Like, I understand what the judge means by, there was a judge that, I wrote it down, it said, U.S. District Judge Hughes, this is not coercion. Methodist is trying to do their best of saving lives, blah, blah, blah. The choice may be to keep staff and blah, blah, blah safe. But it is coercion, because at the end of the day, you're saying, if you don't do this, you can't work here. So if you can't work here, you can't survive. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Who's getting jobs? Who? Unemployment is still, it's getting better, but they've taken unemployment. And so it just feels like for those who are skeptical of of the vaccine, because I had to be, I'm still skeptical, but I still had to take it. I have to go to school. But for those who are like, no,
But you
I'm
don't want to
very
feel forced into
skeptical,
taking, is what you're saying. You wanted to take it
right,
by choice.
exactly.
Because there are some concerns
not in
with it. I get it.
healthcare.
But okay, so
Who
I
knows
just
if
want.
it agrees with my body? Like, I could die, like you guys said, 400 and however many people. That's a choice, and that's a risk at the same time, because I want to work at Methodist Hospital, whatever. If you're gonna fire me because I don't want to take it, at least give me let me work somewhere else. Like, help me something, some other way. I'm sure they probably might have, maybe.
So let me jump in. I like that point of view, and I'm glad you brought it up. So Mike Winter said online, you don't have to work there, and I just want to point out the response that the Supreme Court said. They said, and I quote, "People can freely choose to accept or refuse a COVID-19 vaccine. However, if they refuse, they will simply need to work somewhere else. Every employment includes limits on the worker's behavior in exchange for his remuneration. This is all part of the bargain. Remuneration meaning pay. So this is all part of the bargain. So that was what the Supreme Court said. But I hear what you're saying, Gianni. I mean, I hear what you're
But
saying
that's a
because
random term and condition that they brought to these workers. That's not like
it
once I
wasn't in
signed
the
my job, I knew 2 years from now the pandemic. Like you didn't know, so that's
yeah.
not fair. I just feel like it's not.
That's true. I mean, you
As a
make a
worker.
good point. I mean, it wasn't in an employee handbook that you had to get vaccinated when you were employed. Like, if I started my job where I am currently 2 years ago.
Bullshit.
Go ahead.
Because if you're going into the medical field, you're going for your TB test. You're getting your full inoculations. You're
Especially
getting
the medical field.
everything
I
as
agree with you on
terms and
medical field.
conditions. I went to
Yeah.
teachers college and I had to make sure that all my shots were in order. Just because I was working with kids. So bullshit in the hospital.
But you're talking
That's
specifically
always
medical
been
field. What
terms.
about no? Because that hasn't always been the case. If I'm
But
going to
even in
work
the
at
medical
McDonald's,
field, I didn't sign up for that. Even in the medical field, like you said,
Yeah.
Rob, TB, I can name them off. There's like a list, like TB, blah 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 blah. Those is what I
So now
signed up
add
for. I
COVID
didn't
to
sign
it.
up for no. Yeah. Now they're adding
So now
COVID. So now new
COVID's
workers.
being added to the list. And as far as I'm concerned, if you have an existing term and contract, an agreement with the employer, this is a global pandemic. I don't see why the employer cannot protect its interests by requiring its employees to have their vaccinations, because if they're not vaccinated, they're at a higher risk to get sick and they're at a higher risk to contaminate the rest of your workforce. That's a substantial liability to an employer. It's wrong. If you are working in the healthcare field and you're receiving any kind of public dollars, then public policy applies to you. That's now a term and condition of
Then
your
they should at
employment.
least pay the employees to leave. At least I feel like they should,
No,
because
because
that's
you're
kind of
making
just
a
saying
choice,
it's
Johnny.
arbitrary. It's an arbitrary
It's
thing.
not
It's like saying
arbitrary.
we're right and you're wrong because you're wrong. It's
I,
so
I'm
like
I'm going to say I think Gianni makes a decent point here. I agree with this. It's a I think we're gonna need some more time because I want Gianni got me. So I agree with healthcare workers. No bueno. They need to be that should be a term and condition. New vaccines, everything they need to be vaccinated. But if I'm a McDonald's worker, or if I've been working in my job for uh, 20 years or whatever, and I don't want to get a vaccine because I'm scared of the vaccine, whatever the reason is. Um, and suddenly you're telling me, no, you've got to get a vaccine before you come in. I think there should be some reasonable understanding of that. And I think remuneration for being forced to leave because of it is reasonable. Is
is.
reasonable. Especially if we're talking about years of employment. If you've been around a long time, and because I don't want to get, for whatever reason, a vaccine, I think there should be some
That's
severance pay or
coercion.
something like that. But I
Coercion.
but
I
I
don't know.
ultimately believe that they should be required to get a vaccine, and every employer has the right to make that. I do believe
Yeah.
that. But I agree with what I do agree with you on is maybe some type of pay in exchange for leaving, or because who knew that COVID was coming and all this other stuff? And I wanted to maybe retire with this job, and all of a sudden you're telling me unless I get this vaccine, you're out of here. And that's sort of not fair. I mean, we understand why it exists,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of unfair, right?
But
Go ahead,
then
Jen.
if
really
you're not
appreciated
vaccinated and you bring that stuff into your establishment, can we make you liable then? You didn't get vaccinated, you brought the junk in, hey, you killed X, Y, and Z. So that's my
But that's kind of
question
like
here.
almost making it saying for a fact that because you're not vaccinated that you're going to be infectious to other people, because people who
You have
are
a higher
vaccinated are
probability.
still getting it, are still, but it's probability, not 100%. Okay, but we can argue. That's true. We can argue for days.
That was good. No, I was going to let you argue for days. Go ahead.
But one thing that I really appreciated about the judge's comments and notes is that what did he say? He said the justice that presided over the appeal noted that likening the vaccination requirements to the Nazis' forced medical experimentation on concentration camp captives during the Holocaust to be reprehensible, because that seems to be a go-to for people who feel that they are being coerced
Forced to
and
do
pushed into it. It's like they keep likening it to the Holocaust and having to wear a star and having to do this. And it's just like, no, it's an ethically bankrupt position to take, and it's reprehensible. So if that's your position, fucking stop. No.
So that takes me to whose comment was this? Which comment was it? Sorry, I think it was Michael Winter. Mike Winter says, you aren't forced to take your shoes off when you get on a plane. Other option, don't fly. The entitlement is a mess. It does feel like a lot of entitlement. I'm not gonna lie. Like, no, we have rights and we're supposed to do this. And no, when you go to work for someone, the employer can say, hey, I like you. I think of my wife's studio, right? Fitness studio. And if she had some people that said, I don't want to get the vaccine, but we have all these people coming to this studio, potentially putting the people coming to the studio in danger, I would be upset if she were forced to keep that employee and put all of those other people coming into the studio, all the customers coming in, and put them in danger of, And so, I'm okay with her having the ability to say, I'm sorry, you're fired. I need you to get the vaccine. Show me you have the vaccine. I'm okay with it. I think in some cases, especially full-time employment, you might need to look at some type of severance pay as reasonable. Because they've been on a long time. But it does feel like entitlement, I have to say. Daria Winter says, go ahead.
Maybe, I mean, like you said, maybe, okay, if that person doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's fine. Then they have a remote work location where they are. However, is that a cop-out? Because I love working from home. So if that means that I have to go into the office to get vaccinated,
I'm not going to get a vaccine.
Screw that noise. I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm staying at home, right? So
the article says that these are frontline
times. And if you're a frontline worker, if you are
I see no
taking
reason.
care of people, yes, like you said, Neo, that kid that's working at McDonald's, it's different. But like I saw Mike Winter's comment as well, we all had to get vaccines when we were kids to go to school.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep, we did.
And they've been trying to get rid of that, but and that's then the whole point of the vaccines is not to is to keep other people safe from you as well. So it's not just it's not a one-sided thing. It's not just about you and the individuals. It's about the community and the society. But yeah, as far as like frontline workers, I'm like, no, there should be no ifs, ands, or buts or anything like that. And I'm certain many of them have had it in their contract that as a requirement. I'm certain.
Can I just ask?
Go ahead.
You're being treated by a doctor and they're saying you should get your vaccine, but the doctor says, I don't believe in it. Do you trust that doctor? Do you trust that healthcare worker?
I don't. All right, Daria,
I would be apprehensive. Oh, hey, I'm going to give you your vaccine. Did you get it? No, I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think some people are actually looking for that doctor, to be honest. Some of these crazy anti-vaxxers. All right, Daria Wynn says, I'm so in agreement with you. I do not see why there should be any controversy over this position. When we had no vaccine, that was one thing. But with the availability of the vaccine, what is the problem? Vanessa G says, when people are given safer options at the workplace that leave some of the employees exposed to the less safe work, there isn't always an equal division of labor. When some workers take the safe option, I know people who have chosen to go into their places of work because there are tasks that need to be done, while others choose to stay home to work. Teachers in my district are not given safe options. Interesting. Olivia says another thing, legal issue is the vaccine is only for emergency use. It still has other phases to go through. That's true. It is technically still in the phase of emergency use only. Um,
Yeah.
that's actually a really good point, Olivia. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's why people are skeptical.
yeah,
Even if the people are not like die hard, like, oh, they're the new Nazi, like Rob said. Even if it's not that, it's just no natural, like, I mean, I don't trust it, because even given the facts, even if you do your due diligence and research and it doesn't add up to you using your own mind and your own research, then it doesn't add up. And I don't feel like you should be forced to take a vaccine, but you have to be, because everybody in the world believes in it. So it's hard for those to understand it.
yeah.
I get it.
We were told, Gianni, that by Mike Winter, Gianni and Neo, they are not being fired. They make a
Yeah.
choice to have a public-facing job, and they are not entitled to keep that job. Vanessa G says people with HIV who don't warn their partners and have unprotected sex can be charged with endangerment or worse. Actually, that brings me to a story I have. So I don't know if you remember me talking a while back. I actually forgot this until she mentioned that. I told you about when we were doing an anti-vaccine. There was this person I played volleyball with on a regular basis, and she started emailing me and messaging me about, don't wear your masks. The vaccines are horrible. Don't ever take a vaccine. And I'm like, are you crazy? Stop talking to me. Leave me alone, right? And so I went back to playing volleyball, and she was there, right? And so I was like, so she, we're fist bumping, right? And we're doing all the fist bumps, and she tried to give me a fist bump. I said, "Did you get your vaccine?" She's like, "No," and I'm like, "Well, don't be fist bumping me." I wish you weren't here. It's like, come on. And she got all upset. I'm like, I don't care. Look, I don't know. I feel bad that I did that, but it's really.
But Neo, you
also
choose your associations, right?
That's true.
Like I'm not going to hang out in somebody's home that smokes because it drives me nuts. So I'm going to choose my environment and not be around those people. I'm going to host them at my place and go smoke outside. You're more than welcome to.
Yep.
But you're making a choice who you want to associate with.
Yep.
And if these people are going to become ostracized as a result of those choices, every choice has a consequence. And if you want to make a choice out of ignorance because you don't have the tools necessary to evaluate the vaccine and its effectiveness or what it might do to you negatively, most people who are against it do not have anywhere near the tools to do the evaluation or the research that they say they're doing. They're going on a gut feeling, they're going on ignorance, and they're being swayed by stupid people.
And the dumbest thing was, she said to me, she's like, you're more of a danger to me than I am to you, which tells me she has some sense that she's right. The reality is she's right. I actually technically would be more of a danger to her because she's unvaccinated. But I said to her, but you're still a danger. Don't you get that? Well, what part of that don't you get? It's like you're still a danger to me.
So she's choosing to put her life in danger.
Right. That's what she's choosing to do. But
I don't get
my point is that she's also still choosing to also still put my life, because there's a 4% chance that this vaccine doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's a 4% chance that this vaccine, or I think it's like 95% now, or whatever it is, there's a 4 or 5% chance that the vaccine will not work for me. And that 5% chance is enough for me to stay away from you. So, what were you saying, Gianni? I'm sorry to cut you off.
I kind of forgot. Sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. All right. This is great. So, all right. This time is definitely up on this one. I'm sorry. that was a great conversation. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. All right. Let's move on to our next. Oh, gotta ask. Was that truth, lies, or was it shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
Lies.
Truth on one side, shenanigans on the other.
Yeah. I might be with you.
It's a bit of all. Yeah.
Truth and shenanigans.
Truth and shenanigans.
All right, Gianni, you are up next. Gianni Storm, the U.S. is finally acknowledging UFOs. What's going on?
Okay, so the belief that we might not be alone has risen from the pages of science fiction and blockbuster movies to the halls of government and central intelligence agencies. A political committee, UFO PAC, has even called on Washington to give the public some answers. Before the end of his presidency, I'm speaking weird. Trump ordered a report detailing everything the government knows about UAP, which
Nice.
stands for the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena.
No.
But the provision came months after Senator Marco Rubio said that while the prospect that something otherworldly is behind those flying objects does not concern him, he was more focused as much on the idea that the U.S. adversary could be making secret technological advances. So my question to the panel is, what potential tech advances could we benefit from the UFO discovery? And if life exists behind the UFOs, do you believe that we'll interact peacefully?
You guys mind if I start? I have something on
Well, you go for it. Go for it, NASA boy. Go
NASA
for it.
boy. No, I mean, so UFOs are, I don't know. I can't say that I don't believe in UFOs, but the thing that frustrates me is every single one of these videos. We have 4K, 5K, 20K, stuff. We're talking about the federal government and the army. And all of these videos are so grainy and horrible. I don't understand it. I mean, these are like the top of the line. I mean, when I look at my TV, right, my TV is just beautiful, flat screen, 4K TV. It's so clear I can like touch the stuff. But every one of these UFO videos is like, I can't see.
Thank
I don't
you.
know what the hell this is. Why? Can anyone? Can anyone please explain to me that?
I know.
I
I
think
don't
they're being
Also, we're
piloted
looking
by
at you to
a force.
explain.
They're being piloted by a force of Bigfoots that like to hide in poorly lit and out of focus areas.
I mean, every single video. How do we have these multi-billion-dollar planes and things,
Yeah.
and this video is so crappy? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, they have satellites in the space that can drill down to things on Earth, to the like the
Yeah.
you can see people's
Oh my God.
faces on Earth
And these are so
from
grainy. I know.
space. But we can't get a plane who can capture a clear video.
Maybe with the UFO, like it throws off the technology in the camera, and this is just like a random.
Okay, that's
But
possible though. I
maybe
mean, you might be right.
if it
Some
exists.
weird waves happening. Weird waves.
All right, sorry, that was my take on it, but I'll let you guys go ahead, Robbie. Why don't you go?
So today it's important that the report examined 144 reports from 2004 to 2017, I believe it was. And what I learned was, well, UFOs are now being classified as UAPs, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, which makes a lot more sense in its categorization because a lot of these things aren't necessarily flying. Think of false positives, because even if I take a really neat picture with some cool sunlight effects happening around me, my fantastic little camera is going to pick up artifacts. There are going to be ghosts, if you will, in the image, something that's not there. And we have to take into consideration that equipment doesn't always work properly. So even if the radar's not functioning properly, it may return a false positive that there's something there that they can't figure out what it is, but it's not really there. And I'm very skeptical when it comes to things like that, because the people who tend to make the claims also, are a special lot. But Johnny, if they do come, will we interact peacefully? We had better, because if we're dealing with a species that has mastered interstellar travel, I really hope that they're not like us. And what I mean to say
that's true.
is that if they were like us, they would just they would establish dominion over the earth, because
So what happened to the indigenous people in Canada?
Right? Indigenous people everywhere.
Yeah, true.
Honest.
Right, let's be honest. Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
So, yeah, and that's it. If they do come, Johnny, I hope that they're friendly and not like us, because then I just think of so many sci-fi series and movies like V. We could just be a food source, really.
True.
Like V.
What tech?
I don't think Johnny knows what V is.
Well, they redid one a
We
couple
just
of years
dated
ago.
ourselves.
They redid
Remake.
the series a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't think she watched it because it was only like a season.
Yeah.
I'll watch
But
it.
as far as tech advances, I think that we would learn a great deal in the disciplines of physics and engineering if they're flying about in space. So it'd be interesting to see what other tech they have developed and whether or not that would be adaptable to the human species, the human race. Because if life is coming to us from beyond the stars, it's very unlikely that it would be a carbon-based life form that we have come to know and
Right.
recognize. It would be
Right.
alien, just as alien as we would be
Literally.
to them. So is their technology even something that's applicable to our species?
All right, Jose.
I had to chuckle when, Johnny asked if life exists, do you believe we will interact peacefully? And my comment is we don't even act civilly with humans. So how are we going to interact peacefully? I'm convinced that they've done a few drive-bys. This is what it is. They're doing drive-bys. They're seeing how shitty we are, and they keep on driving. And they're hoping that we're just going to change our tunes once in a while, right? To see when they can land. But no, in all honesty, this really does interest me, right? Because
Yeah.
who knows? Who says that we're alone, right? There must be other life forms out there. But like Robbie Rock was saying, and he and I were discussing this earlier, you take a cool picture with your camera. Hey, where did that shadow come from? So who knows what it is? Whatever it is, I hope they are patient with us because we're not the most civilized people out there. Let's be honest. And
Vanessa
I'm
G
hoping
just
to
said no
finally get
curb
to time
appeal.
travel or something like that, So, but
Ooh.
no, it would be really cool to see what they are and what they can bring to us.
Yeah.
What can they show us? Because I'm hoping they're a lot more intelligent than us. They have to be.
Oh yeah, they made it here from another planet.
Right? But, for now, keep on driving
Well,
by. We're not ready for you. We are very far from ready. We
Gianni,
are.
any final thoughts?
No. I've never believed in aliens. I've always had the open mind to like watch like ancient aliens, but that's not really knowledge, right? That's just more so kind of like fairy tales. But it's just I've always been open to to extraterrestrial and even like NASA and space travel and things. I know those two are different things, but just in general, it's always interested. So I don't have any comments. I'm just ready to see what comes of things, like what happens in the future.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what would happen when they come because, or if they come, or even if they exist. I still want to reiterate one thing: the massiveness of the universe.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because, like I said, I mean, there are more galaxies, not stars, not stars. There are more galaxies of stars than there are grains of sand on Earth in our
Oh yeah.
universe. So to think that no other form of life exists would
It's
be,
arrogance.
yeah, that would be pretty arrogant. But whether or not they figured out how to get here and figured out that we even exist, I mean, again, if you imagine you're on a grain of sand in the earth and there is some other grain of sand somewhere else where there might be life, how they connect, how you find each other, that's amazing to me. So, I mean,
Literally.
unless we found that life was, prevalent everywhere, and if we go to Mars and we start finding that life was on Mars, life was on Venus, life was on, if we start finding that, then it makes more sense that life exists throughout the universe. So,
Yeah.
all right. So that is that great topic, Jan. Oh wait, let me get to the comments. I got comment. Greetings, Dr. Phil. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hey.
Vanessa G says no curb appeal. I always want to repeat that. I don't
No
know if
curb
everybody
appeal.
heard. Talking about
No
humans. if they came here. All right, Jacqueline Robson, I have a feeling that they would welcome the chance to dominate us. Manford, one of my best friends, Manford, how old are these videos that are being released? I mean, and that's the truth. It's just crazy. Vanessa G said Mitt Romney stated that we have more important things to worry about on the Earth and outer space. This takes a distant second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So another
funny.
reason. Uh, wait. Oh no, I see what that was a vaccine. She's talking about vaccines again. All right. All right. Thanks for that topic. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Well, it could
I
be.
think it's some truth. I think it's true.
It's a mysterious shenanigans.
I'm going with truth.
Well, I'm going to say that
I think there's
the
something
person
going on.
that requested the report also wanted to put boots on the moon and created Space Force. So might have been feeding an agenda. Just saying.
That's
Just
true.
saying.
That's true. I'm glad they're at least I'm glad they're releasing everything they do have. So, all right, let's get to the next one.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, now this is a fun one. So, Jose found out that people at Home Depot commuting with demons. So, what's going on, Jose?
So this is an article that just popped up and I had to bite. I just did. So police had to break up an exorcism in the lumber aisle in a U.S. Home Depot. So
We got UFOs and demons.
I mean, we're just going crazy everywhere, you know. Authorities busted up an attempted exorcism in the timber aisle, no less, of a Home Depot in Dixon City, Pennsylvania on Monday, according to a bizarre line included in the police department daily crime blotter on Facebook, which I sent to you, Neo, which is right there highlighted, showing that the police had to go to Home Depot. So 2 individuals were having an exorcism in the lumber aisle for dead trees, the police wrote. The would-be exorcists were 2 men dressed in black, according to the police. Both were chanting and moaning in the lumber aisle and looked like they were trying to do an exorcism. Of course, the humans were escorted out of the building, and it's unclear if the alleged evil spirits were escorted back to hell.
That is hilarious.
What in the article?
So usually, you know, we have to come up with a question, you know, to ask the panel. And my question is, what? Just what? Like, can you imagine pulling up a police report and reading, oh, at 3:20 p.m. How do you know, I'm a hippie granola. I'm not going to deny that. But I'm not going to go do an exorcism down the street at Rona because in the wood, in the pile of wood, you know, it's just like, come on. Have we really like just lost our shit?
And you know me, as soon as I saw this thing, I was searching for video. I wanted some video so bad.
Because I asked him, I'm like, what question do I ask? And he says, discuss. So here I am, and I'm going to say, Johnny, discuss.
Go, Gianni. Let's hear what you got.
I mean, first, it's so funny because actually I was talking to my friend about exorcisms and if he thought they existed, because people talk about like getting the Holy Ghost at certain churches and baptism churches and they speak tongues and stuff. So I was like, what about the opposite? Like when people have exorcisms? And he was like, no, they're making it up. They're just pretending. Like they're pretending. But I don't know. In this scenario, this is. I think this is where entitlement comes in, because this is like, why Home Depot? You said Home Depot, right?
Home Depot.
Yes.
For the trees, because the trees died. The trees died. They had evil spirits in them or something. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Where is this? Las Vegas?
This is actually Pennsylvania.
No. Pennsylvania, dude. Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, Pennsylvania has a lot of like Wiccans, so that makes sense.
Oh, do they?
No. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there. The witches of Salem have better things to do than take care of. We don't do exorcisms in Wiccan, my friend.
That's true. That's
Yo,
true. That's true. No, that's true.
you're
But I
wicked.
don't know. I don't. Yeah, Wicca is more like witchcraft, right? And exorcism is more like demonology and
Yeah.
Satan worship. So I don't have. You lost me there. I don't know. That's different than astrology.
Are you sure, Gianni? Are you sure?
I can read his chart and see maybe why he's into that, but I can't.
Yeah. Why are you crazy? Let me find out why he's crazy. I mean, it could. I mean, what if it could be them QAnon people? Because they start talking about like the they. Oh no, it's probably Democrats. It's probably Hillary Clinton's crowd. Because that's probably what it was. They were doing seances and trying to get rid of the get rid of the demons.
Watch out.
Yep.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to be in front of Home Depot soon.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
You watch.
What are your thoughts, Robbie?
Well, for me, freedom of religion is also freedom from religion. So
Freedom from religion.
Keep that shit out of Home Depot. I
Please.
think that Pennsylvania necromancers are going to be very upset that their base materials have been tampered with, because demon wood is very hard to come by. Shop around. I honestly, it's just such a shame that some well-intended believers got together to vandalize the demon product. And I kind of hope that this was maybe like Neo, like I went looking for media, hoping that this was just some tricksters trying to do something. I read in the article that Home Depot staff was told not to comment or share any video. So that's why there's nothing, because this is it's a private corporation, right? So who knows what's going on?
There might be some real stuff going on.
There might be some real shit going on.
So there might be some real demons in Home Depot.
Or
They're like, keep it on the hush.
Maybe they were going to use this lumber and they were shipping it to DC to build a new wing for the White House for the QAnoners to just really rile their heads. But
well, there's a difference between a seance and exorcism. Was it a seance or exorcism? Because I read somewhere seance and I saw somewhere an exorcism, but I think the blotter said exorcism, right?
Yeah, exorcism is a little more intense than a seance. I think seance is just like channeling other.
I don't know. The Exorcist and Ouija are both scary movies.
Exorcist. Yeah, they were. Exorcist is a scary movie.
Very true.
So let me ask you this. If you were shopping, you go down the aisle and you're like, hey, like, how would you react?
I would be taking my phone out.
I'd run.
I think that's what I'd be doing. It would be video.
Right? How do we not have? How do other customers did not see this and videotape it? If you're watching this show, send us the proof. I want to see this.
I want to see
at
some
TLSLiveShow.
Thank you.
We want to see that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
All right, so a couple of comments, actually both of them from Mike Winter. He says, I mean, where else can one go to good exorcism? Home Depot, right? Pennsylvania. That's funny. That's funny. All right. But that was great. So truth, lies, this is definitely shenanigans for me.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Definitely some shenanigans. That was great.
Truth,
Silliness.
shenanigans.
That was a great topic. That was we need a little laugh after talking about all the craziness going on in the world.
We gotta have some fun.
All right, so let's have some more fun. It's time for Shenanigans, the game show. All right, guys, we are playing Party Cues. These questions come from the app Party Cues on Android, and we're going with the subject hilarious situations. I'll read off the situation, and you tell us as quickly as you can what you would do in that situation. The winner will be decided by me, maybe the audience, for the most creative answers. So the winner gets our final thought for the day. So for example, this is just an example. Donald
Anyway,
Trump.
you can bump the resolution on that, Neil?
Oh, sure. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do for you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, let's see.
Just smudge.
That's about the best the resolution's gonna get. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, let's try this. Let's try it. Let's see if we can get a little.
Oh, hey, I can see that.
Delicious.
All right, so yep, we're all good. Let's see if we can if that holds. All right. So, hilarious situation. Donald Trump has become president, but not of the United States, of the entire world. He attempts on his life occur daily. It is up to you to start humanity afresh on Mars. What do you bring with you on Mars? And what do you name your colony? Actually, I'm going to use this. So we're going to use this one. What do you bring with you to Mars? And what do you name?
Who do you bring?
Oh, thank you. Who do you bring? Who do you bring with you to Mars? And what do you name your colony? I'm starting with Robbie Rock.
Oh, okay.
It's a loaded question.
It is very loaded.
So a select handful of my loved ones, but definitely a couple of engineers, definitely a couple of farmers, definitely a couple of doctors. Yeah. And what am I going to call it? Let's call it Joe-Bert.
Joe-Bert.
Come on. Stop.
Joe-Bert.
Joe-Bert.
Oh, stole mine.
For those that don't know, that's a combination of Jose and Bertrand.
Good old baby Joe-Bert. Would have been a cute one.
All right, I like that one. All right, let's go to the next one. We're going to do this one let's do this one with Jose. All right. You wake up one day and discover that something strange and powerful has happened to your voice. People become weak and obey everything you say when they hear you speak. You're invited to be interviewed in front of a global audience on live television. What are your first two sentences? Okay. So, and what?
What do I say? You're invited to be interviewed in front of a global audience on live
People
television.
obey everything that you say. What would you tell everybody to do?
You're basically God.
Get vaccinated. Party on Garth.
Party on Garth. I love it. All right.
There you go.
So what's the Garth reference? For those that don't know.
That's it. What's the name of that movie again?
Come on, Robbie.
Oh yeah, what is
Wayne's World.
That's it. I'm Gaffney. Yeah.
Oh, Wayne's World.
He's pretty on Garth.
All right. Gianni, you are engaged to the sole partner of your dreams, and it's time to meet the parents. After an hour of meeting with them, it's obvious they strongly dislike you, and you are turned off by them. Yet they remain the parents of the one you adore and wish to marry. Do you call it off, or do you proceed with the marriage?
Proceeding, getting married. F them.
You said F them, so you're getting married. You are getting married. Okay, cool. All right. One more. We're going to do one more round. Robbie, you are challenged to enter into physical combat with the most famous person who shares your first name. Who is that person, and would you defeat them?
I'm going to say Robert De Niro.
Okay.
And,
I love Robert De Niro.
You know, he was a tough guy.
I was going to say, Robert De Niro.
He's also pushing 80, so I like my chances.
You got your chances.
I'm just going to engage in some light running and just keep some distance, keep him little, yeah.
So Robert De Niro, all right.
Very good.
All right, Jose, here's another one for you. It turns out any and all packaged food is linked to cancer. As a result, humankind returns to hunting and gathering. This is perfect for you, Canadians. Foreseeing this, you looted the nearest hardware store. The commercial economy implodes, the barter system is back. So what food do you choose to specialize in?
Interesting.
Fruits and veggies. Fruits and veggies.
Fruits and veggies.
Whatever I can grow.
You could corner the
Will
market
said-
with your berry crumble. Oh,
Ooh.
You think so?
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go with my berry crumble.
Okay.
And this is what I have to offer. I've also dabbed into berry frozen yogurt as well.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, that's my barter system.
That's
and
what
I'm
you
staying
barter.
away from wood.
I
You'll be
like
rich.
it. I like that. All right. Gianni, last one. You're on a date. Your date is very attractive. There's obvious chemistry. The central tension between you is palpable. Your date abruptly shares they cannot be with you and refuses to reveal why. Do you give up or do you try harder? What do you do?
Oh, I'm gonna have to figure out why. I'm a detective. I have to go down that rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole. So you're gonna, so you're gonna try to figure out why, huh? So okay.
Yeah, like what's wrong with you? Are you
All right.
why?
All right.
It's like
So you're
Kathy
not gonna.
Bates. I'm your #1 fan.
Shit, I give up. All right, so I'm claiming the winner of this is Jose and her berry crumble pie.
I think that was a hint. I'm on it.
All right, let me see if there's some comments online. I see Dr. Phil said taking Tyson Fury with me and naming Wilder Colony. Oh, that's his son Tyson, and keep
Nice, yeah.
Gypsy King on edge. That's funny. So that's what he's doing. If the Trump question. Sorry, that's funny. All right, let's get our shout outs in. Let's get some shout outs. All right, we're gonna start off with Gianni Storm. Shout out.
Shout out to Lizzie and her birthday, and shout out
Happy
to,
birthday, Lizzie.
and shout out to the government for finally revealing UFOs
All right.
and stepping behind it. Thank you.
All right, Robbie, shout out.
Really, just a shout out to our daughter Erica, who is celebrating her birthday on July 1st. So we're getting together not in celebration of Canada Day this year. We're getting together in celebration of Erica solely and making it all about her. So I know this is her reading week. She's finally catching a break from her college studies. So this is her week, and we're happy to celebrate her. Lots of love, Rika.
Love that.
Aww.
All right, Jose, shout outs.
Shout out to Robbie Brock for just constant support and just being himself. And I am so looking forward to this week of holidays with you. I cannot wait to see what we dig out of the garage.
Sounds like you'll have some fun together. All right, I got to give my shout out to Mayor Patrick, who's been on the show a few times. You'll remember when he was on our show for the first show of Pride Month, Lizzie asked if there was a Pride celebration in College Park, where he's the mayor of. And the mayor said no. Well, he organized a Pride parade for this weekend. It's happening right now. I'm missing it, unfortunately. So shout out to Mayor Patrick for organizing that. So it's great.
Shout out.
Great.
Nice.
Oh, our final shout out goes to our Pet Shenanigans winner of the week. And that is Estefania Maria. She posted a pic of her cuddly little pooch. Let me see if I can get that up here. Her cuddly little pooch sitting in a bow with the caption, "Shout out to my sleepyhead who doesn't mind a full day of naps when I'm sick. Feel better soon, Estefania."
Can I just say,
please?
This lovely pooch's name is Sprocket. Have you ever heard a cuter name? Sprocket.
That's so
He looks like a
cute,
sprocket.
eh?
That's a good name for him.
I can only think of that SNL skit with Mike Myers. This is the time on Sprockets when we dance.
Sprockets. All right. So, of course, to see all of the beautiful pets or to post your favorite pet's photo, make sure you join the TLS Pet Shenanigans Facebook group. The photo with the most likes and comments gets a TLS shout out each and every week. And that is officially all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective, even got some things off your chest, please like, follow, subscribe, and share. Tomorrow, check out YouTube for our clips, TLSShow.com. Our next TLS Live show is we will not be having a live show next weekend, July 4th. The next show will be on the 11th. So feel free to check out our replays on TLSShow.com for the 4th. We'll be having a whole lot of fun. They'll be celebrating Canada Day. We'll be celebrating July 4th. Lizzie Enders will actually be leading things on July 11th, and Robbie Rock will be producing the show. So it should be fun. Look at his face. All right, and don't forget this Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Johnny Storm, Olivia E. will be going unscripted once again. And our winner, Jose with her blueberry crumble. What is our final thought of the day?
You know what? If you could be anything in the world, and you've probably seen this saying, be kind. Try to be a better person than you were yesterday. Educate yourself, inform yourself, read a book.
Read a book.
And thanks.
All right. Thank you, Gianni, Rob, Jose, and people behind the scenes this week, Lizzie and Olivia. Most importantly, thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. See you guys.
You.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans.